And we are back. It is Vortex F1 Racing League today, Saudi Arabia. For the season finale, we have 11 drivers with us in the Diamond Division to finalise these season's points. It's Pesh, Manju, Onions, Duke, Ken Cheese, Suzuki, Oliver, Who Am I, Dan Richards, Bako and Lewis with us today, representing a variety of teams, and one of which already on the track. And if I had to take a guess, it is indeed Sly Suzuki. The one of two Williams drivers, in fact, joining Dan Richards on the team today. In the esports livery. And with all our telemetry returning after some technical issues 2 weeks ago, we are so back. Suzuki is very, very often the first one onto the track. And the same is true right now. You can see taking it very, very slowly on this outlap. Jeddah is a circuit that punishes tyre wear. These fast corners absolutely ruin the nice and shiny tyres that you've got on right now. You can see there's even reflections of the lights in them. But unfortunately, after an outlap or so, they start to dull, they start to wear. And if you overuse them on these outlaps, you'll feel the effects. We'll see over the course of the race distance after qualifying how dirty these tyres can get and just how damaged they can feel. But for now, these soft tyres are being kept in absolutely pristine condition by our front runner, or at least very often front runner, and front runner in terms of first one to do a lap. And as you can see, giving himself a very, very wide berth on the way into turn one, a very, very late apex to give himself a perfect run all the way on the outside. As much time on throttle as possible, burning the battery now down to 85% on the ERS, and now braking for turn one. Flicking all the way in, covering these curbs almost entirely, and straight back on throttle for the exit of turn three. Hanging over to the right hand side with a very sharp turn four. I have a feeling we may or may not see a crash in that left-hand side barrier. But nice and flat to the floor for turn 6, 7, 8. Tiny lift for turn 9. And not too far over that turn 10 curb, or you'll bottom out and lose control altogether. Down to 70% on the ERS now, going into the middle sector. A very, very nice, smooth turn 13, hanging all the way over to the right. Just for the sake of reducing track distance, now at a sharp right-hander of turn 16. Prepared by going to the left first. And very cleanly done, but the first sector does get beaten. No longer the session's best from Suzuki. Down to 40% on the battery now in anticipation of turn 22. That left-hander where you go very wide and over the curbs he goes. 3 tyres, which is one too many, and the lap is invalid from Suzuki. First one on a lap. Happens to be the first one to mess it up. Now who took that purple sector 1? Looks like it may have been Onions Please, the Ferrari, coming through turn 27. Now the very final turn before this final stretch. You hang over to the left, halfway over the track limits, and across the line for Onions. It's a 126.660 for the Ferrari, which sets our provisional pole position. Bako goes 26.993. Bakos GT. Dan Richards with a 27.979. And Duke 27.644. Manju goes 27.983. Very close to Dan Richards in that regard. Pesh coming through the final sector himself. The second Ferrari. Or middle sector, I should say. Lewis does a 27.974. The Sauber in the mix with Dan Richards and Manju. A very nice turn 22 from Pesh. But maybe a little too safe. Of course, it is the first lap, which means you can afford to be more safe with it. And over the line for the second Ferrari to 28.0. Ken Cheese does a 27.591 to slot himself in third. And Suzuki back on an outlap. What about Who Am I? On a lap right now, as the Sauber of its Lewis lets him by through turn 20, but this lap is invalid from the Red Bull. He's messed up this one in a very similar fashion to Suzuki, who we will now pay once more our attention to. As he comes through the first sector, again being very slow on this outlap, preparing the tyres. Suzuki, again, very, very careful on this outlap, as most now return to the pits to give another lap a go, but Suzuki has already been through it, as he's now gone through the middle sector. And again, a very, very wide approach to the last turn of the circuit, into turn 1, down the straight. Timer once again resetting for Suzuki, 85% on the battery once more. Very harsh braking for turn 1, maybe a little too early, but very smooth this time. And again, a very nice line through turns 4 and 5. Hanging over to the left-hand side for this double apex. Once more on the right. Don't wash out too wide. It'll bottom out there. Same applies for after turn 9. That turn 10. But very, very well maneuvered. It's 2.5 tenths behind Onions in Sector 1. And Who Am I breaks that provisional pole by 5 milliseconds to do a 6:26.655. The Red Bull, after invalidating one lap, puts in an absolute banger. Take away what Onions Please had earned. 40% on the battery for Suzuki now. It's still a yellow Sector 1. Not about Sector 2. It's actually faster than Who Am I in Sector 2. Now down to 9% on the battery. Nothing left for this Williams. A much more normal line for the final corner now. All the way out wide. For turn 27, down to 0% on the ERS. Across the line he goes, and it is third place for Suzuki, 26.798. And that's an in-lap for him now, as we see a few drivers on out-laps of their own. Manju, Dan, Lewis, and Bakos, but some of them not being as careful with their tyres as we saw Suzuki being. And now Lewis getting ready to go for his opportunity. The Sauber setting the timing going once more. And into turn 1. All the way over that curb. You almost feel like you could have gone a little bit later on the brakes. But it was a very, very precise turn in. All the way over to the right once more for turn 4. And into the barrier there. A slight bump. Nowhere near the career-ending crash that it could be if that was in the race. And Lewis having some issues here with staying on the track, and off we go in turn 10. That's that lap invalidated. And now, Bakos giving the pole position a run for his money with a personal best Sector 1. The Aston Martin setting competitive sector times here. Something that will not be said by David Croft this season, but I get the absolute pleasure of saying. And into Sector 3. A great Sector 2 in purple, in fact. 2/10 ahead of Who Am I? Bakos. The pace. Very, very competitive. And only one more opportunity to extend that pace lead, and it's this final turn. Across the line of 26.621 indeed puts the Aston ahead of them all. What about Onions? What can he say in response? It was a purple Sector 1 for the Ferrari. Fighting back to take what has been taken from him. A great turn in for turn 16. We'll see at the sector time as we go into Sector 3 in just a few seconds' time. It's a green Sector 2, 67 milliseconds faster than Bakos. And now it's in this final sector. Does it get any faster for Onions, please? 15% on the battery. A little aggressive on the throttle. You can see he tapped it up, had to release again, and then gradually go up and down to the line. Is that going to hinder him? It is not. A 26.449. Puts himself a clear 2/10 ahead of the Aston Martin. What about Manju? 27.494 currently. Not a nice calm lap now. What about Duke Sekar? Just started his attempt. Very smooth on the brakes. And a little wide in turn 4. Missed the apex slightly, perhaps for fear of hitting that turn 4 barrier. But very nice turning through the middle sector. There was a slight tap of a brake there that maybe wasn't absolutely necessary. We're a few seconds behind. I wonder if this is in fact a second warm-up lap for the McLaren. Just based on the smoothness. And what about Oliver? The Aston Martin, who as yet was not on the board, but now with a 27.901, puts himself ahead of Pesh, Dan Richards and Lewis. Now you wonder, maybe Duke Sekar on an in-lap. And as Ken Cheese begins his lap, the very, very pink V-carb having a stab. A very, very wide turn 4 there. A little bit of understeer under the medium speed. Again, a great turn in for turn 9. But again, not any understeer at high speed. That setup very, very responsive for him. In fact, so much so that you can see the rear almost stepping out. A green Sector 1. Oh, and a touch of the barrier in turn 16. That's what I was saying. The turn-ins on this, the setup he's got going, very, very aggressive. The front end extremely responsive, but in that case, just a little too much so. It might benefit from slightly more stability if the difference between the front and the rear wing, also called the wing gap, is just a little too large. That's the kind of effect you can get. And again, the run down to the line for Ken Cheese. And he's decided it wasn't going to be a best lap. It's worth coming into the pits and giving it another go. Suzuki, meanwhile, goes up to 26.522. Not quite pole, but definitely an improvement. What about Pesh, the Ferrari? On a lap of his own. Two personal best sectors for the Ferrari. Pesh with 14% left in that battery tank. And braking for turn 27. Gives it all back. Now 20% left to burn on the final run down. What is it for our current 11th place? Up to 8th for Pesh. Oliver, Lewis and Dan Richards relegated by 1 position. Now Manju on an outlap. Lewis doing the same. But Manju about to start his, so we'll follow him through. Across the timing lines for him. The Haas into turn 1. A great turn in. The perfect balance of speed. And a great turning of the car. Very heavy on the brakes there. Maybe slightly too much. But at least it's very consistent. A tap of the outside curb there is very brave when many are afraid to bottom out over it. It's incredibly brave driving from the Haas, and it's only 2.5 tenths behind Onions Please. As a reward, it's a personal best, and you can tell. It's incredibly clean so far. Now we'll have to see if he manages turn 16 well, incredibly well, so close to that barrier. Absolutely fearless. As we go past the Aston Martin, letting us by. And again a personal best in Sector 2 from the Haas. This looks like a very solid improvement from Manju of at least a few tenths. And again a great turn in, hitting that apex and letting traction control do the work on the exit for a very, very nice lap time of a 27.136. That almost certainly defends his position from all behind. And it's not a lap time to be sniffed at all. Now Ken Cheese giving it one more go. The V-carb we followed before overcooked it into turn 1. Just went too deep there. And for chicanes, that can really hurt the lap time. And again here, drivers very afraid of that exit curb. Extremely responsive setups, trying to avoid losing control. And it's 4 tenths slower than Onions Please as we go into the second sector. Suzuki has retired, having done all of his available laps. What about Bakos, the Aston Martin, who's shown us he can rival pole? What about now? It's invalid from the Aston Martin, very unfortunate. But he's gone over the curbs in the first sector. Just too much. Who am I? The Red Bull. Flying through this first sector. Not afraid of the curbs at all is this man. And only 1 tenth behind Onions Please. Looks like he's trying to rival Suzuki for that second place. As Onions, in fact, hit a 26.335, a new session best, and that is his final lap. He's taken the checkered flag. Every lap now is the final attempt. Everything rides on this attempt for Who Am I. Pole position is not out of reach. Down to 38% on the battery. Only less than a tenth behind Onions' brand new time. And it's in the final sector now. But everything depends. Duke Zakar retires from 5th, Manchu from 6th, and Dan Richards from 11th. Everybody else has hit the checkered flag. It's just this man right here. And this exit means everything. Is it enough to get that final pole position for the Red Bull? It is not. He goes second. And Onions will take that from him. But very, very well attempted from the Red Bull. The gap between them was 110 milliseconds, just over a tenth of a second. So our starting order: Onions and Who Am I on that front row. Suzuki and Bakos very close behind, both great pace. It's not to be ignored. Duke Sekar and Manju in 5th and 6th, with Olive and Kenchi 7th and 8th. Pesh, Lewis and Dan Richards rounding out the field. But again, the times are very close together here. So we're going to see some close fights between the front and the midfield, alongside potentially some differing tyre strategies. As we now get a nice view of the pit wall while we wait for the race to commence. The driver's given a few minutes just to make any changes they might need, and to calculate what they think the drivers around them are going to do tyre-wise. What are they going to do strategy-wise? When should I pit to beat whoever is ahead of me? I've driven in these leagues before, and it is competitive. Everybody trying to be in each other's head. You have to out-gamble even your opponents. Sometimes even make them think you're going to pit stop, when in fact, you're not. Especially on this track, where the pit lane is on the way to that finish line. People will hang over to the left to try and trick the people behind them into taking a pit stop. And here we go, the red lights already showing for the season finale. No formation lap needed. Onions is away. The Ferrari on the outside line for the start. How's he got away compared to Suzuki on the inside with Who Am I? Round is outside now. The two side by side as we go into turn 4. What are they going to do? They're still side by side. The Williams goes off. Gives it to the Red Bull. That is Who Am I taking second place. Suzuki very close behind. Dan Richards in the back. Manju and Bakos clashing. The Aston Martin off. So is Suzuki in third, overtaken now by Manju and Bakos. Suzuki down to 5th. Is there damage on that Williams? We do not know. There is not. The front wing seems completely clear. Bakos now up to 3rd. Who Am I in 2nd? What's happened down here? An absolute scuffle for the back as Ken Cheese finds himself struggling over the curbs in turn 16. Overtaken by Oliver, down to 8th. Goes the V-Carb. Very chaotic first set of events. But ultimately, it's Onions Please and Who Am I who stay out front. Now, the game says that it's expecting people to either do a medium hard or a medium hard. That is absolute bull, is what I say. It's either going to be medium hard or hard medium for most drivers here. We're in the Diamond Division. They know how to manage their tyres. Onions gets, of course, fastest lap. We have everybody on the mediums, save for Manju and Pesh, who've started on the hards. Depending on tyre wear, as I say, Who Am I gets very close to Onions now, with Bakos very close behind, Suzuki close behind him. Everybody within vision of at least one other car, save for Onions, who can see nobody but the clear track ahead of him. Lewis and Oliver swapping around now, as Ken Cheese made his way back up to 7th. And in fact is going for 6th. Tries to go around the outside of Duke Sekar there. Didn't have the shorter line. And McLaren very aggressive through those turns. We now have the fight for the front as Who Am I closes it into turn 21. You can see the Ferrari flashing, burning, saving that battery, using only the combustion engine for those shorter areas of the track where he cannot be overtaken. Once more, with DRS active now, Who Am I? So very close. Bakos only waiting to take advantage, same with Suzuki. Manju keeping up just fine. Now down the main straight. Manju taking fastest lap in the hard tyres. Onions pulled to the inside to defend into turn 1. Will come out of it with compromised exit speed. As Oliver has got 2 corner cutting warnings now once more, and that's a 3-second penalty. Who Am I losing some time in this middle sector? Of course, the dirty air, incredibly difficult to navigate in those high-speed corners. The chronic understeer that comes with following another car. That's why you'll see them try to take alternate lines, try to get some clean air on that front wing, just to encourage some more rotation. It's into turn 15 now. You can see how much braking they're needing to apply. Now down the main straight once more. Who Am I? Really struggling to find his way through these top 4. Oh, as Manju sends a crazy move down the inside. We have more collisions. Duke hits Manju. Ken Cheese hits Duke. Suzuki gets a 3-second penalty for corner cutting. He'd have no issues getting that removed, given that he was quite clearly the subject of a collision at the time. Oh my goodness. Manju still in 5th. Ken Cheese has found his way up to 4th as a result. Of course, it's a nice 2-second gap he's got to worry about ahead of him. But Manju sends a crazy dive into turn 1, setting off an absolute cascade. Manju not giving up at all. No damage to his car either, from what I can see. And now with DRS and battery, Ken Cheese pulls to the outside. Lets Manju through for that one, with the possibility of a penalty for Manju. Potentially meaning that place might be taken away once more. The front 3 stay as they are. Burning battery down the main straight. P2 and 3 gaining on the Ferrari. Bakos coasting into turn 1. As Onions overcooked once more. Went deep in turn 1, but it won't be punished. Except for in those tyres. Bakos taking every precaution on these tyres. You can see how gently he's going into these corners. Oh, went wide there. Almost bottomed out. Very scarily. But he's taking it so gently, just to avoid robbing the tyres of that grip too early on. Using that inside curve to get some clean air. And DRS open now. Does he have a speed advantage? They both gain on Onions. But as usual, nothing can be done in that specific section. Beautiful bird's eye view of the front of the track. As Who Am I? So close now. This is his chance to make a move. DRS active now. To the right-hand side, the outside. From Baco's perspective, a front row seat to this fight. As the Ferrari brakes late, he locks up. And inside goes Who Am I? The Ferrari slides once more. They're still side by side. Out of turn 3, into turn 4 now. Who will come out on top? And it's Onions. A very brave under braking is the Ferrari. He gained back almost all of the time he lost from that DRS just under the braking zone. With more aggression, later braking, more trust in these tyres. Of course, it will also be taking more away from them. There's some sliding going on from Onions, and it makes you wonder, is he over pushing these tyres? How much is he taking away from them in his pursuit of defending his position? Manju has caught all the way up, dragging Ken Cheese along with him. We now have a full train from first all the way through to 5th. Suzuki gets through on Duke Sekar into 6th. And now, once more, Ken Cheese trying to go for Manju round the outside. The Haas forced to take a compromised line. The V-Carb looks like he's going to go for it. He pulls to the left-hand side with DRS active, but he's got no battery. What about to the front? Nothing happening here. And Ken, not enough battery to make any meaningful move there. Oh, and Manju has gone into the back of Bakos. Bakos now losing the 1 second DRS advantage. That is not good. Bakos will not be happy with that one. Manju overcooking it on the exit. And just making contact, and Bakos goes into the wall, loses the front wing. Oliver gets a 3-second penalty. And down goes Bakos to 11th. No front wing left on that Aston Martin at all. And you have to wonder, was that rear contact? Or was that loss of grip? It didn't seem like loss of grip. But I could be wrong. And Ken Cheese. Been watching Manju this entire time. From just a few tenths behind Manju, who stormed his way through the field. He slides a little under braking for turn 27. Now, Onions once more, safely defending into turn 1, and lap 8. As Bakos pulls into the pits now, whether or not he's retiring or simply going to take a new front wing and deal with it. But the question is now, are these medium tyres going to last? And if not, how long are the hard tyres going to last? Because if so, if the medium tyres are dying after 7, it makes you think this may actually be a 2-stop race, but it may look more like a medium-hard medium instead of the game's suggested medium-hard, as Bakos has gone onto the hard tyre, and with a new front wing, he's going to try and regain his speed, and hopefully, maybe with the help of something like a safety car, might regain his position. Manju, incredibly aggressive. He's got Ken Cheese behind him after all. Who Am I closes in. Onions misses the apex there, goes deep. But Manju still not enough battery to really keep up with Who Am I. The Red Bull doing a great job of maintaining that gap. A slight inside lockup for Onions there. We saw the smoke. question is what to do right now. So many drivers having to take several attempts in turn 4, because one touch of that barrier can in fact take your wheel clean off. Manju now so close. But he's using battery when they're charging. And that's a slide. What's happened to Olive? He's in the wall. The Aston Martin. Very slow. What has happened to him? Looks like a controller disconnection to me. We're missing a front wing end plate. We are stopped on the track. What on earth is going on to Oliver? We do not know. But now, Ken Cheese getting very aggressive at Manju. Manju leaving him. Suzuki into the pits. It's lap 10. And Lewis gets his own 3-second penalty. Pesh, in fact, follows Suzuki into the pits. And Dan Richards gets past. It's Lewis on the run down to turn 4. People now very much struggling on these tyres. Bakos taking fastest lap from down in P10 now. And so many drivers now not getting any of that initial turn in they were getting just 5 or so laps ago. We have a yellow flag for a caution. As an Aston Martin, Oliver has retired. Down the pit straight and into the pits. After some front wing damage. That's unfortunately ended his race. Who am I? Still so very close. But comparing the batteries, they're almost equal. Manju so very close to Who Am I as well, all over the back of that Red Bull. As both of them come into the pits on lap 10. But it looks to me like they're indicating a one-stop race. If they can make the mediums last for 10 laps, they can definitely make the hards last for 15. But Manju, who started on the hard tyre, is now getting one free lap of clean air. He has to make this count, or it's going to be an issue. Bakos takes fastest lap once more, proving the hard tyres right now are great. Once they're warmed up, of course, he didn't get this, notably the first lap on the hards. It took him another lap to warm them up. And if it takes that long to warm them up, then Manju might just come out with an advantage. He might very well hold on to. Of course, he will have to pit at some point in 4 or 5 laps' time. But in the meantime, how does the fighting look? Who Am I and Onion stay very firmly stuck together. But at this stage, they're working together to catch back up on their advantage, because they both know fighting would only cost them time. But these hards do seem a bit of a handful at first. Keep an eye on Suzuki's delta to Manju, as Manju comes into the pits already. 11 laps and he's done with the hards. That is not a good sign. He's taken the hards only 1 lap longer than the rest of the field. Took the mediums. Maybe a little too much aggression on those tyres has cost him the management portion of this race. And now Manju on those medium tyres, but he's got 13 laps to go. And with the way he's driving them, you'd think he's only got 3. Complete aggression on these tyres. His approach definitely aiming to just use everything that's available. Suzuki has P1, of course, a 3-second penalty that may very well be disputed. And Onions chasing him for it, but with a 1-lap tyre advantage. Of course, Suzuki having pitted 1 lap before everybody else. DRS open for the main straight. Who am I following Onions, please, in that regard? Onions having to defend the inside, aware of how close this Red Bull can be. So close, you can practically see up that diffuser. Oh, and a spin into the barrier of turn 4. I knew we might have something happen, but Suzuki's gone. He hit the inside. And that is what was our race leader. Absolutely banished from the race. The front left tyre destroyed by the barrier. Even the slightest clip can do that to these F1 cars. And that is how quickly a race can end around Jeddah. That's why you have to be extremely careful. Manju now catching up. Manju takes fastest lap as well, but mediums coming true for him now. But with 11 laps remaining, you have to wonder if he might be forced to meet his mechanics one more time. The skid marks from Suzuki's crash remain in turn 4. And a touch of the barrier in turn 9 for Manju. Loses him some time there. Who am I and Onions still, as ever, so close. Bakos, after a spin in the first sector, is now trying to make his way forward. Catching up to It's Lewis. But of course, all drivers here have very good race pace. And catching is not as easy as it may seem. And now with DRS, the Aston Martin pulls to the inside of the final turn. It's turn 27. Who am I takes fastest lap. What about Bakos? Can he defend from the DRS that will now come from It's Lewis? He cannot. He overtook too early and now is left stranded. No DRS in sight. The rear wing remains completely closed and he's lost what he just went for. You have to feel for Pesh and Manju, forced to pit off their hard tyres. With the real question being, what are they going to do strategy-wise now? If they've wasted the best race tyre off the bat. Now once more down the main straight. The gap now 7/10 between our two front runners. Not quite enough for a move to be made. Bakos goes for it once more in the final corner. Has he learned his lesson? Is he going to be beaten by DRS once more? Well, Lewis does have it. Is he stranded? Yes, he is. Pesh is in the pits, but Bakos remains stuck. Very, very limited on his options. The only way to get past Lewis is going to be to hold off on the overtake until that final stretch. Wait until he has the power of the DRS. Who am I now? Very close to the Ferrari, closest he's been in a long time. And Manju very close to Ken Cheese, having caught up with those medium tyres. Only a few tenths separate several of our drivers now. Manju. 3 sector 3. A great view once more of the fight happening on further up. Happening further up. There we go. Yeah, there we go. As Onions and Who Am I once again so close. The Red Bull 2 tenths behind. It is in his grasp now to the outside. Can he beat the Ferrari unbraking? The outside turns to the inside for the Red Bull. Who comes out on top? And it is Onions, please. But Who Am I is going through it once more on the inside. He fakes the dive. And Onions calls his bluff. Cuts right across. Has him absolutely red. Bakos comes into the pits. And comes for new medium tyres. So Bakos couldn't even stay on the hard tyres for too long. Would have loved to check just when he pitted onto them and work out how long those hard tyres can really go in clean air. But again, Who Am I so close has been the moral of the story, has been the word of the race for him. Close, but close is not good enough. They both set themselves up for great exits. And Who Am I has DRS once more. He's not going to let Onions go. This time, they both hold to the inside. He's forced to go around the outside once more. He brakes very early, trying to cut back on the deep move, but no. Onions slows down enough on that second apex to block any prospects of that. A defensive masterclass going on right now. Once more, such a good preparation lap for the both of them. ERS charged. Almost equally. Onions, in fact, has the advantage this time around. I think Who Am I dumped quite a lot of it into that final overtake attempt. But again, I'm going to say it again, very close. Duke Sekar overtakes Manju as Manju comes into the pits after 7 laps on the mediums. Surely another set of mediums is coming his way. It is indeed, but a 2-stop 3/10. 3/10 of a second is all that it stands to separate Onions and Who Am I, the two drivers who've been neck and neck the entire race. Who Am I getting ever so close. Forced to the outside once more. He's got to find a way to get on the left-hand side of this Ferrari. Find a way to the inside line. And he might just do it this time around. He's going to get enough of an advantage to sweep back overhead. No, he hasn't. He's still on the outside. A lock up for the Ferrari. They go deep. But this time, can the Red Bull get the exit speed he needs? No, he cannot. Onions again has it completely under control. And a fake dive from Who Am I leaves Onions in the lead for another lap. Ken Cheese now completely caught up. Same tyre. Where? And a very good opportunity. And a tap of the barrier in turn 22 from Ken Cheese. That will make it so much more difficult to have a chance at an overtake here. But his opportunity to overtake is more so based on when Who Am I decides to go. And a little bit of a lock-up from Who Am I, who's decided against a dive bomb this time. Further towards the back, we have Lewis and Manju. Lewis, Dan Richards, actually, into turn 1. Lewis also goes for the safer option, leaving a dive bomb to next lap. As Manju takes that inside line, new tyres. He's finding his way to budge through on everybody. Slight rear contact with Dan Richards, again rear contact, and into the inside. He's pushing around, pushing and shoving, and he's got himself off track in turn 8. Sometimes moves should be waited for. Manju potentially trying to use the newer tyres, but a little too aggressively here. And again, turn 18, 19. Manju now with DRS and down this straight. Makes his move. A much better place to have made the move, and in fact, it would have been made earlier had that very aggressive set of circumstances earlier on not happened in the first sector. But here we are. Manju 15 seconds behind Duke Sekar has in fact made what the rest of the grid has decided to be a mistake with the two-stop strategy. He's gone too aggressively on these tyres. So while he is now out of contention for a podium with only 3 laps remaining, well, 3.5. Everyone towards the front is dragging out the final bit of grip on these hard tyres. DRS for the second time this lap. Actually third if you include the main straight. Around the outside, attempt Who Am I. Very, very early to try and go for a move. He's only got 3 more attempts. And this is one of them. Back to the inside. He's finally done it. On the inside is Who Am I. Has he broken late enough? He has not. It was a very, very good attempt. He caught the Ferrari as Onions came across the track. He cut back to the inside, but he needed to be braver. Find himself further ahead at the apex, and he just might have made that stick. While Who Am I pushes his tyres for all of these opportunities, Ken Cheese sits in waiting. The yellow flag as we see a McLaren Duke Sekar stopped in turn 18. Is there damage on that McLaren? Looks like potentially a missing end plate. But it's very difficult to tell. As Who Am I has dropped back. I can't quite tell why. What's he done? 1.8 seconds. He's lost DRS altogether. Potentially it's a tyre wear thing. As Ken Cheese closes in 2.5 tenths behind. Everybody afraid of a puncture at this stage, with only a lap and a half to go. But Onions right now runs uncontested, with Who Am I and Ken Cheese dropping back by again another second over this lap. It might just be another tyre conservation issue, with Who Am I not quite finding the pace. And Ken Cheese taking advantage into turn 27. V-carb on Red Bull. Tiny bit of contact, kicks them apart. But it's Who Am I that has the DRS. The move was made too early. We're on the final lap. That was the only chance he was going to get. And Who Am I takes it back into turn 1. The V-carb. Just a little too impatient on the overtake. If he waited till that final straight, he might have had it. Waited till the start-finish straight, that is. But there we are. Manju has caught up the Duke Sekar. Finding himself following a slower car through the first sector. Now he finds his way round. And Ken Cheese is not going to give up for this final lap. As around he goes in turn 20. What's happened to Ken Cheese? To Who Am I mean? Is there a puncture on that Red Bull? What is going on? Oh, he set him up. He set him up. He's got DRS. And Who Am I takes it back. Ken Cheese has been absolutely played for a fool. And Onions across the line comes the Ferrari, taking the checkered flag in the final race of the season. Excellently driven from Onions. Who Am I takes second place after a very heated battle with Ken Cheese, who takes the final podium spot. Manju in 4th, just misses out on that podium. And Duke Sekar just behind in 5th. Dan Richards and Bacco still going at it. As Pesh retires, Dan Richards takes 6th, Bacco 7th, and Lewis 8th. And those are our finishers in today's race. A very unfortunate one for the Aston Martin here. Who started much further up, was 3rd on that first lap. And I'm sure the FIA will have their hands full. But in the meantime, the victory of Onions, please. There we are. Race winner, of course, Onions. Bacco's got fastest lap. Kenchi's got driver of the day. Manju most overtakes. And Onions also cleanest driver. That is your finishing order. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you all next season.